Another electric guitar option is what I'm going to be calling double stops. Now, before we move on, I need to define what double stops are, because I think traditionally you would refer to a double stop anytime you play two notes on the guitar, just two notes at a time. But I'm going to redefine that, and I'm going to say that double stops refers to whenever you play two notes with a string in between those two notes that are not being played. So like that would be a double stop. And it could be anywhere. So it could be here. That would be a double stop because this string is in between. Okay, so for our purposes, that's what we'll call double stops. Now, when you look at double stops on the guitar, and I know you've seen this and you probably have played this before, it's all over music. It's very difficult to understand what's actually going on. It's pretty complicated. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down into several videos that explains, I think, all the ways that they're used. Okay? So in this video, we're going to look at double stops, but specifically what I'm calling chord fragments. So they're pieces of chords that are laid out all throughout the fretboard using the cage system. And if you don't know what that is, I have videos on the cage system that will explain. But if you know your cage system, you'll be able to visually see how all of these notes absolutely make sense. Before we move on, we're in the key of G. Like all our other videos for this series, key of G, or I should say key of G form, because you can use a capo and move all around. Okay, so here we go. There are three different positions of this, and I'm going to show you one at a time. So this first chord or pattern looks like this. Okay, so this note or this string in between for now is not being played. So you're going to play these two notes together. I'm going to draw a line because they belong together like that. Those two play together while muting all the other strings is going to be a one chord in this position. Number one chord. So in this position, the next chord is going to be right here. So this is the 4 chord, number 4. And then I'm doing this because it shares this note. These two notes together, like that, is the 5 chord. So you have chord 1, chord 4, chord 5. So the difference between 1 and 5 is only this note moves down half a fret. Okay? So the other thing you need to know is using these double stop chord fragments, you will basically only play the relative major chords. Okay, so I've referred to this in some of the other videos previous, talking about, playing triads. But what happens is you're going to play this one chord, number 1 chord, for both the 1 chord, which is major, and, I should do this, and its relative minor chord, which is a 6 chord, and that's the minor chord. But whether it's 1 or 6, major or minor, you're going to play a major double stop. For the 4, you're going to play both a 4, which is major, and a 2, which is minor. And then for the 5 chord, you're going to play 5 for both 5, which is major, and 3, which is minor. So you have 3 patterns to play 6 chords. Okay? All right, so all of that is in this first position. Now, what I would do if I were you, I would just pause the video and get this down, because there's actually 3 positions, but in order to learn all of them, which is the goal, you really need to spend time, I would say at least a day, few days, just going over and over and applying this to a chord progression or a song until you have this memorized, because it's going to get a little bit more complicating, okay? So there we go. Now next, let's move on to the second position. So I'm going to change colors for this, and we'll do this. So in this second position, here are the chord patterns. This is now the 1 chord. And then these shares this note. That's the 4 chord. And then these 2 that's the 5. So 1, 4, and 5. And this would apply just the same as here in the first position. You play 1 over 1, 6, 4 over 4 and 2, 5 over 5 and 3. Now the difference is these notes are higher, so they're going to sound a little different. And also they're voiced differently, so they're going to have a different sound, which is great for different options. Creativity. This is the second position. Now, once again, it would be good for you to pause the video, learn this second position, and then move on to the third and final position, which will be this. Okay. So in this third position, this is 1. That's the 1 chord. 4 is going to share this note along with this. This is the 4 chord, and the 5 chord shares the note with this. This is the 5 chord. So now you got 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. The thing to kind of note is the 4s and 5 within their own position are the same pattern. Just moved up 2 frets. See, 4 and 5, same pattern. 4 and 5, same pattern. So this here is third position. Okay, now once again, go and memorize this pattern before you move on, because once you get this pattern, let me show you what happens. So these 2 notes, the 2 notes of the 1 chord in this third position, those are the same 2 notes as these 2 notes that are open notes on the guitar. That's a 1 in the third position. You see that? This is an octave higher than this. So what happens is once you learn these 3 positions, they are all connected. It goes 1 from the third position to the 4, 5, 1 of the first position, to the 4, 5, 1 of the second, and then 4, 5, 1 to the third. And this would actually keep continuing all the way up the neck. So no matter what key you're in, by the way, this works in any key, not just key of G. These double stops look the same. Even if you're not in the G form, they'll all be the same. And they move up and down the neck consistently the same way, which is really great because once you learn it, you'll have it down. And so now you can basically, let's say a chord progression is, 1, 5, 6, 4. So depending on the dynamics of the song, how you want it voiced, you can move along these by playing maybe 1, 5, 6, back to 1, right? 6 the same as 1, 4. And then the next time, go to this 1, go to this 5, go to this 6, which is the 1, and go to this 4. And then you can go up to this 1. So now you have chords that are actually moving, and you're voicing it so they move up and down, which is really, really cool. Okay, now there's a bonus part of this, and I included it with this video, and that is this. The beautiful part about using these double stops in the G form is that, let me use a different color. This note, this open string right here, is a G. And even though you're playing double stops, there are times when you can include this open note. So now you're playing 3 strings. You're playing D, G, and B mixed in with this open G string. You're going to get even a different sound. It's going to sound even more modern. And all the chord changes will sound even, I should say, there's more tension built in. And there's also a reminder to the listener that you're in the key of this note, which is G if you're playing open, which has a really good effect. And especially, by the way, if you're using a little bit of overdrive, reverb, and delay, this will be a perfect option for you to play during kind of smaller verses of the song for worship songs. And so there's a lot of things you can use this for, and it's just a great way to, or I should say a great option in, other than the other 13 things we've done so far. Okay, so this open string, you can play with it open, or you don't have to play that and just play it as a regular double stop. And it'll all work. Okay. By the way, there's double stops not only on these 2 strings. We only looked at the D and the B string. There's actually double stops on, the E and the D, A and the G, and also the G and the E here. But the patterns will change for the ones that are on these higher 4, or I should say these lower notes here. This same pattern will carry on through if you were to shift the strings down to the G and E string. However, the positions will all change depending on the key. Okay?